Hey there, everyone. I am back to talk about some more comics this week. So, here are the comics I read this week. We've got Pay No Attention to My Laundry hanging in the background there. Um, I'm not in my usual spot because it's cold out there. So, I'm here. But, yeah, it doesn't matter. Just ignore the laundry. So, yeah, first book, we've got Jonah Hex. Luck Runs Out. Now, this collects like a couple of issues of a previously ongoing series. I don't know when it's from, but it's like issues 25 to 30, I believe it was. And they're not connected stories. It's basically just like 5 separate Jonah Hex stories. And the art is different between not I don't want to say every issue is different, but some of the issues are quite different from the others. But overall, I really liked this actually. I haven't read a lot of Jonah Hex before, and I saw this at the shop that I get my comics at, and I was like, well, it's like pretty cheap, and yeah, I'll give it a shot. And this was really good actually. It was like an interesting kind of mix of cowboy stories and kind of like somewhat supernatural stuff and kind of horror. It's really interesting. There's a lot of like uh let me show you, for example, like there's a difference in the type of like art you're looking at here. So you've got your first issue of this book. So like, here's your Jonah Hex. He's like out in the steppes looking for and he so like runs across some fucking people running away from the law. So he starts shooting at them because he's a bounty hunter. He wants money, right? So he's like, if I kill these guys, they'll get me some money. But so he meets the sheriff that's chasing him, and it ends up being his son. It's an interesting kind of thing. So like, that's one story though, right? So then the next story is totally different. He's like riding out looking for somebody, and you can see the art is a bit different for this one. But he runs out, and he comes across like women who are killing people and eating them. I guess she's eating them or making them eat each other or whatever. But like, they cut off. She's basically like cutting the arms and legs off these men and holding them in a barn. And yeah, I mean, it's like a kind of a horrific story, but it's cool. Um, so you've got another story about a kind of like cowboy who's hunting corrupt cops, and Jonah Hex is hired to find him, but he's like somebody that Jonah Hex saved a long time ago. It's a pretty good story. You can see like, oh wait, I'll show you a picture of him. He's he's like got all those police stars from the people he's killed. It's a pretty cool story. Like, and then there's like another story about someone who tries to hire Jonah Hex for revenge, and then that guy like runs out and blows up a church anyway. Jonah Hex kills him, and then the people are like really pissed at him and they kick him out of town. It's really a very like character building thing for Jonah Hex. Like, it gives you a good idea of what his character is like. And then you have like this other story where he's like, in this kind of situation where he's like fighting Indians in the and he's like hired by somebody to go out there, and he's like the only person who survives the attack, and they kind of bring him into their tribe or whatever, and he's the Confederate army comes out and murders everybody. It's like a really kind of, and here's like Jonah Hex drunk. This one's in like, it's a weird tone switch though, because the last story is like kind of a comedy story. So like, you have these like really serious ones, and you have these kind of like gross horror ones, and then there's a kind of a goofy comedy one. It's a nice mix of like what people do with Jonah Hex. So it's pretty good. I would recommend this. Like, if if anything I said sounded interesting, like, I'm gonna look for more of these. It's hard to find it, like this is the first Jonah Hex comic I've seen in all the places I've gone, and you know, it's just random. It's like a random used comic. So like, if I find more, I'll buy them. But like, the chance of that really low. But if I do find more, I'll buy more Jonah Hex because that was good. Next, we've got DC Comics and Dark Horse Comics crossover. This is Justice League, so it's, I don't know why it's Justice League. There's not an actual like Justice League crossover with any Dark Horse in this. It's just like characters that are sort of part of the Justice League are crossing over with stuff. So like you can see on the cover here is Batman, Hellboy, and Starman. That's one of the crossovers. But like there, you know, the art is different because there's between each story because there's a lot of different stories in here. It's a pretty thick book, but this starts out with, I believe, Superman. Oh yeah, Superman versus Predator. So you've got a Superman versus Predator story that's kind of convoluted, like, you know, because realistically, a Predator can't fight Superman. There's no way, right? Predator is not a Superman killer. But Superman is, like, drastically weakened by some virus on the ship of the Predator, so he's, like, losing his powers. And he has to kind of, like, survive being captured by this, like, crazy cult that's trying to kill a bunch of people. And they're trying to kill people who are like disabled and stuff, you know, like people who are, have genetic problems or like have some kind of like you know, like retardation, I guess is like type of thing. So they like anybody who has that like genes to produce that or are that, they'll murder with their like weird techno virus thing. And the Predator shows up and starts killing people, and Superman fights the Predator unpowered. And you know, there's like this weird cult and stuff, but like it's goofy, right? It's not, it's like a premise that doesn't work unless Superman has no powers, right? Because otherwise it's like done in a second. Like I could see Batman versus Predator as much better. I'm sure that's a thing that exists. I haven't read yet, or have I don't remember. Oh well. But continuing on, like, no, I haven't bought the Batman one. But like, you know, that story is like, not horrible, but like the Predator, like it's like a cheesy kind of like, let's save Superman. He the Predator like tosses him some medicine at the end and then like goes off to die instead of, you know, trying to kill people. Whatever. It's kind of goofy. So like it's not a great story, right? Next we have Superman versus Terminator, which is better. So we've got Superman versus Terminator, and you'd think like that's dumb too, because Superman isn't gonna be able to, you know, Terminators can't fight Superman. But like what happens is like one of the Eradicators, I think it's an Eradicator, the Eradicator, who is like a cyborg Superman, who wants to, you know, he wants to destroy Superman. He gives technology to Skynet in the future, like builds a time capsule for them, so Skynet can get information on how to fight Superman. So like what happens is Skynet keeps sending back Terminators to fight Superman, and every time they're stronger and stronger because they're like gathering data and like using the information from the past to make stronger and stronger Terminators that can fight Superman. So it kind of makes sense that like, it makes way more sense than the Predator story does. But like Superman goes into the future, so here's like a cyborg Superman who's like combined, and eventually like cyborg Superman combines with a Terminator. It's kind of dumb, but like, you know, while this story, oh, like you can see like here's Superman in the future, like shows up with no clothes, and then there's like Old Man Steel. It's not a bad story. Like it's much better than the Predator one in that it's not so as convoluted, and you can kind of at least understand what's the reason why Superman and Terminators can have a reasonable fight. But like, other than that, it's kind of, you know, it's not the greatest of stories, but like it's kind of interesting to see Terminators and Superman fighting. I mean, it's like Supergirl and Con-El are in here also, the Connor Kent, but you know, it feels longer than it should be, and also like the final battle is kind of dumb, but you know, again, better than Superman versus Predator. And then we've got this one. This is Superman, Batman, not Superman, but Batman, Hellboy, Starman. And these guys are like, this you can see the art is Hellboy art basically. Like it's totally different, right? But like, there's a kind of Nazi cult or whatever. There you go. You got your Nazis. It's Hellboy. What do you expect? So a cult Nazi group is trying to do something or other, and Batman and Hellboy and Starman team up to smash these super Nazis in South America. It's a pretty good story, actually. I kind of enjoyed that one. Out of all the stories in this book, I enjoyed that one the most. It's good. And last we've got, I guess it's like Batgirl, Batwoman, and Ghost. I say Batgirl, Batwoman because they're both in there. It's not. Oh wait, no, they're not. It's Bat. It must be Batgirl. I'm gonna look it up. I don't think, cause like it's, how there's like so many bat people, but there is a Batgirl and a Batwoman. Yeah, it's Batgirl. I was gonna say Batgirl's in there, but so is Oracle, who is the other Batgirl, who's now Batgirl again. Kind of a dumb retcon they did with Rebirth, but this story was kind of all right. It's just kind of like, Ghost, who cares? Batgirl. This is like the assassin Batgirl, not Barbara Gordon Batgirl. So this is Cassandra Cain Batgirl, right? It's like the story is not bad. Like they're fighting somebody who must be a ghost villain and Two-Face. But like, again, this one was like, it felt way too long. Like they padded it out for like it could have been a 1-issue kind of thing. It's like 3 issues. It's not so great. So yeah, that was this Justice League book. It's kind of, it's a mixed bag. There's some stuff worth reading. The Batman, Hellboy, Starman is good. Superman, Terminator is all right. The other 2 stories, kind of meh. Next we get another Batman here. We got Batman, the Shadow, the Murder Geniuses. Now that's a cool name. So the Murder Geniuses, it's like Batman and the Shadow are kind of teamed up. At first they fight a bit, then they team up sort of, and you get some like cool background story about how the Shadow has been like training Batman throughout his whole life, which is cool. It's a cool story. Like, I'm sure it doesn't actually connect to the real Batman. I mean, but it's written by Scott Snyder and Steve Orlando, so you get a good idea of like, it's a good story. Like a shadow villain. It's kind of like immortal serial killer type of thing is fighting the Shadow, and the serial killer has to like kill 3,400 people or something. I think that's what it was, to open the door to Shambhala, which is, like to get some knowledge from some spectral teachers or whatever. And like, Batman is the final person the dude has to kill. But they end up not killing Batman, obviously, but also they open the door somehow. And they're trying to destroy the teachers in there. Not get their knowledge, but actually just kill them. So Batman and the Shadow are in there fighting. It's a pretty good story. Like, there's a lot of it. The art is really nice too. I should have pointed that out. Like the Joker is in here too, teamed up with that serial killer type person. Let me find you some art that looks real nice. Okay, so here's like Batman in here, and then you got the next page is, boom, the Shadow. And the Shadow is kind of, the Shadow is like Batman, except he just murders people with guns. And in this he's got like real superpowers. Like he can like appear and disappear and change his face at will. It's it's not exactly like the classic 1930s Shadow who just gunned people down. But I'm sure that is actually a thing. So like here is like one of the covers. You can see like it looks good. I mean this whole book is nice. It was I got the hardcover because it was on clearance at one of the comic stores I go to, and it was cheap, and The story was pretty good. Looks nice. Overall, like, pretty good. Yeah, Batman, Shadow, the Murder Geniuses. Pretty good. Last thing I was reading is the first Hellblazer book. This is Original Sins. This is like a, I think it's issues 1 through 9 of the original Hellblazer series, plus like 2 issues of Swamp Thing. I'm sure it's, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's issue 1 through 9 of Hellblazer plus Swamp Thing 76 and 77. Hellblazer. What can, like, I love Hellblazer. I used to read this comic back in the day, so I'm kind of just rereading these at this point. Like, I used to collect Hellblazer up until, like, I don't know, like the first 100 issues, probably. But, like, man, Hellblazer, like, John Constantine as a character is great. He's constantly screwing shit up. Everybody dies. It's like, he never gets anything right. He's like hardly a hero, right? So, like, the very first story, he's like, his friend comes to him for help, and he ends up, like, having to kill him. Like, he doesn't win. He kind of wins, like, he gets rid of the demon, but his friend has to die. And, like, actually, if you saw the Constantine TV show, this story is like, episode, like, 5 or 6. It's, like, in the early part of the story. And, like, the guy in the comic, John Constantine basically just tricks him into taking the demon and dying. So John Constantine, like, basically kills him. Like, they wall him up in a room. But, like, in the TV show, like, it's totally different because it wants to make Constantine, like, someone you might like. The comic doesn't care about that, so it's much better. So, like, the TV show, like, the guy chooses himself to be the sacrifice instead of, like, John just tricking him into it. In the comic, John just tricks him into it. Like, just doesn't tell him what's going on until it's too late. And, that's, like, how Constantine works, though. He's, like, always doing that. He's always, like, stumbling into things where, like, he has to use this magic, and it's, like, the price to pay for using the magic is something awful. So, he's always getting into problems like that. And, like, there's another thing in here where the character Zed, who's also in the TV show, like, some kind of, like, weird cult, the Damnation Army, and some, like, opposite angel type of cult is fighting against them. They're, like, some kind of weird televangelists. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Actually, if you did watch the TV show but you didn't read the comic, there's, like, a bunch of stuff that's like a kind of like Easter egg. Like, the character in the TV show, Zed, who doesn't draw pictures in the book, that does in the show, draws a picture of this guy, like, and it's in the show. And I thought, like, oh, that's pretty cool. I remember that. It's kind of, it's dark, it's weird. I love the art for this. I'm not sure who's doing it. I know Rick Veitch is probably doing the art in this. Maybe not it. Okay, no. It's, Rick Veitch is writing it, though. Who is the artist? That's a good question. Okay. So, John Ridgway is doing the art for Hellblazer. Okay. And, okay, I see. So Rick Veitch is doing the art for, or the pencils and writing for Swamp Thing. That makes sense. But this was really good. Overall, like, if you've never read Hellblazer, this is, like, a good book to get. It's pretty thick. It's a couple 100 pages, right? So it's not like something you can get through. I mean, I guess you could get it through in one sitting, but it's like 12 issues, right? 11 issues. Yeah, it's like 300 pages. It's a good bang for your buck, at least. I think I didn't pay that much for this, like $6 or $7 maybe. And, good read. I was, like, reading one story a night, basically, for before I went to bed. So I'd read one issue and then go to bed. That was kept it by the side of my bed. I have, like, a bunch of comics up by the side of my bed that I read, like, one part of, and then I put it down, go to sleep. That's how I roll. But yeah, that's all I read this week. It's not all I read, but, like, it's all that I completed. So I'm like in the middle of some stuff, including stuff that you guys recommended to me. I'm reading. Actually, I read a bunch of stuff you guys recommended to me, but that was before I was talking about comics on my channel, so you probably won't hear much about those. But yeah, I mean, next week there'll definitely be stuff that you guys recommended to me in the list, so look forward to that. I probably could have read more this week, but I've been busy playing a game, which is something I haven't done in a while. I haven't actually like finished any games in like months. Haven't like really sat down and played anything. I've been gone like weeks without playing any games. So, and it's not like I don't have anything. I've got a bunch of stuff I should be playing, but I just haven't like felt the need to play them. But now I got something that I love that I'm playing, and it's the new Yakuza game. Well, Yakuza Studios, Ryuga Gotoku Studios, which is it's called The Judgment for you guys, The Judge Eyes for me, and it's great. I will actually do an impressions video on that in the future when I'm done. So next week, maybe week after next. I don't got a lot of time, so I have to split my time between playing the game and reading some comics and all my other things I have to do in my life. So, that kind of cuts time. But yeah, that's about it for this week. That's all I got. But I'll have more next week and maybe some other stuff. So yeah, I will catch you guys later.